Me, it's in. So when I do workshops, right, entrepreneurial workshops, I map it out in this way. Spend 7 days, write down all the things that you do, everything you do. So you in studio right now. When you in studio, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? What are you pulling out? And then after 7 days, go into each and every detail and question this. Could you have outsourced this to anyone? And if you are able to at least answer on 30% of those things, that means that you need to outsource 30% of your time to someone else, because when you outsource the 30% of your time, then you get back the 30% so that you can either relax, so that you generate new ideas, or you then utilize the time optimally so that you can capacitate yourself to go out there and get more deals. But I think as well, I think from a growth perspective as well, you kind of just see the bugging need as an entrepreneur. Sometimes it comes through as you being overwhelmed, you're doing too much work, and you feel like you're alone. It's at that point that you need to outsource, and sometimes it's just purely a risk, right? Because you're not really doing too much of this, and you're not really doing too much of that, and you feel like if I hire someone, I'm hiring them to come in and just do 2 minutes of this and 3 minutes of that. But what it actually does as well, it puts you in an uncomfortable position to be pressured, so that you actually fill the work up, and you become more productive so that you can generate more work.
Sure.
So in essence, you actually then have to believe in your brand, right? It's like someone saying, okay, cool, I like a Bonang brand, right? So I'm out here at UJ, I'm either a broadcaster or whatever, but I want to get to a Bonang brand. You don't get there, you take yourself there.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you need to then consciously decide that you're going to invest a lot of resources and time, because you must understand that some people get into places because of talent, and some people get in places because of hard work. And you get into places purely because of hard work, purely because you don't take no for an answer, and purely because you show up for stuff. So I then speak on corporate platforms that I'd like to graciously say I get a generous compensation for, but I didn't go to any speaking schools. Like my highest grade is grade 9. I don't have a grade above grade 9.
Oh, wow.
And I think for me is to then say, if you're at UJ right now listening to this conversation, what it then says to you, you are way more privileged, meaning that you should be doing 100,000 times more. So whatever pay you getting broadcasting this or cleaning cars or washing cars, you take that and you pay a PR company so that you push your brand out there. But the question at the end of the day is, do you really believe in your own brand? And if you do, you bank on it. You bank on it.
Yeah, that's very important. So, you were saying that you only have a grade 9, and everything else you did for yourself. You figured it out as you were going. A lot of people are somewhat under the impression that you need to have done certain things before you can jump in and actually start the entrepreneurial journey. For you, what would you say a person actually needs to do to get in or to start?
So I think so there are 4 things I've been thinking about, right? And the first one for me is, and I think I'll also touch on this in my talk. So to those who are going to come, it's going to be redundant, right? But, or rather repetitive. The first one is start where you are, and not necessarily start where you are. Sorry, that's the second point. But the first one is really be authentically you. Oftentimes, especially, spaces like a UJ can swallow you up.
True.
Because you're coming here with people with different ideologies, they come from different backgrounds, and you're coming into a space with predefined thoughts around what is cool, what is not cool, and there's a lot of partying around, but there's also a lot of hard work that also happens, and you kind of just have to choose which side you wanna at the end of the day, which side you wanna be on, right? So I think the first most important thing, just always be authentically you. I mean, if you're always referred to as that girl from Kodi Place in Limpopo, then own that thing, because that's the thing that's going to bring you in the coin. Today I'm getting the coin purely because Nguye gas. That's all. That's literally one of the main things. They pay me because Nguye Tembisa, Mashang is and that's all. You understand me? And I think the second thing for me is start where you are. Start where you are, and what that means is we often look at starting where you are as nothing, right? So a lot of people then say, well, I need money, I need cars, I need this, I need that. You then forget in your immediate network. I mean, she knows people I could be linking up to. He knows people I could be linking up to. You know people, your mom knows people I could be linking up to. So you start with what you have, start with your immediate network, open up your phone book and see who's willing to buy my product here. And then that automatically then becomes your research project or whatever, right? And I think that the third thing for me is there'll never ever be a good time to start. It's always going to be now. You determine when your starters. I mean, KFC was started by a gentleman who was entering his very old age.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Different brands were started by different individuals at different life cycles, right? And there is no predefined start. You just need to start.
Yeah.
So that you don't lose out on the momentum or rather the growth of the brand that you're trying to build up. And I think most importantly, talk is cheap. I think we talk a lot because most of the things I'm speaking about right now, you might have heard in a business lecture from your mom, or you can even go to TEDx for YouTube videos and watch this thing, right? But I think that the real catalyst is when you go back home and you decide to do one critical thing to get off your butt and actually get things done, because numbers don't lie at the end of the day.
Absolutely. There's this thing, because unemployment is so rife in South Africa, people are being told that they need to start businesses if they can't find jobs, and mid them starting their businesses they fail, or a lot of people are falling into depression. Would you say then people that are in corporate are happier than those that are in business, or business people happier than those in corporate?
I'd like to think people in corporate are happier. I think I'd be happy. I don't know if I was in corporate, right? Because I mean, business requires a certain level of crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I started then, and I don't blame my mother because I think it's all she knew, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling my mother I'm going to start this business thing, and it's 6 years now, so I'm making anything between 180 rand and 380 rand per month on a 2,000, 3,000 rand deficit, right? And she doesn't understand this thing because I'm not putting no bread on the table, and she keeps walking in on some, why don't you just close the thing and get a real job?
Yeah.
Go out there and get a real job, right?
Yeah.
And then you actually decide, you're going to persevere and push this thing, but the orders are not coming the right way. And you see with entrepreneurship, I think, as we'll see, synonymous with anything that is related to life, right? You pay hefty life lessons. That life lesson could be me getting a girl pregnant at a young age, or me wrecking my dad's car when he went out on holiday. You pay hefty life lessons, and I think at the end of the day, it's both trial and error. But I think for me, how it worked for me is I made it my only solution because there was no other way out, And I made up in my mind my plan A is going to be to succeed, my plan B, my plan C. So I look at my entrepreneurial journey. So when I started as in an internet cafe, coming out here today to speak to students at a UJ, I'm not expecting them to go start internet cafes. And I'm not expecting them to go and start car washes, but I'm expecting them to disrupt whatever industry is out there.
Yeah.
So if you are going to go into any industry, then you need to disrupt. And I think that's the most important thing. And we've seen the disruption through the Ubers and whatever. So sustainability is another conversation for another day, whether or not they're going to be sustainable, because they're struggling in certain parts of the world to be profitable, right? But you need to be able to disrupt so that you get everyone looking up, because the truth at the end of the day is that no one chooses from the bottom of the barrel. So I've seen a lot of people talented, right? These guys are talented. These guys are super talented, being surpassed by people that are not talented. That's because the people that are not talented, they wait by the door waiting for the station manager. Joe, what about today? No, come to me. What about today? No. What about today? No. What about today? The station manager, this guy, he knows that this guy is not talented. The programs manager knows that this guy is not. What about today? When an opening opens up, they're like, no, Tommy, just come. We'll train you because of your persistence. And it's pretty that.
Very true. Very, very true. What would you say is the biggest challenge with being an entrepreneur? Because now you were saying, you'd like to think that people in corporate are happier. What is the biggest challenge?
I think some of the challenges, I think obviously for me, so I'll tell you about our challenges now, and I'll kind of track back to challenges then. Okay, no, let me start then. So then it was infrastructure. It still is. So which is why I get questions like, well, an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. Why must you say township? So I related to my personal experiences, right? When we were applying for internet from Telkom 12 years ago, Telkom told us that they don't have an internet exchange in that area, and it took them subsequently 2 years for them to install an ADSL exchange, where they're like, you guys are the first ones. And we kept calling and calling and calling. Quite recently we've had a courier company, with the 3 big courier companies in the country drop us. Not purely because we're in the township. And we are the only customer that they have in the township, so they feel like it's all the way out of their way, right? I think the third biggest thing that I'd like to think, not just me, but a lot of entrepreneurs come across, is really finding the right talent, right? Finding the right people to believe in what you're trying to build, and you work with those people in building this thing. So it's talent spotting, talent sourcing, and hiring right. Because every cent really matters. And I think to a certain degree, it's things like funding, but I really think that more than funding, it's more than funding that should come from DFIs and agencies. It's funding that should come through your actual product sales.
Yeah.
Because that's the first funding element. When you're able to buy the headphones for a certain amount, you put in your markup, you put in other marginal costs, and you're able to sell it out to the market, right? So I really think that large corporates need to take on a bottom-up and a top-down approach. And a bottom-up and a top-down approach is when you are automatically, as a young black lady who runs a cleaning company or manufacturing cleaning products, you are absorbed rather by a large product company that manufactures those items on a bigger scale as an enterprise and supply development partner, but at the very same time signing a contract with a large governmental organization that is going to plug you in, and also at the very subsequent time signing a big contract with a large organization that is going to bridge the gap. Because transformation is not transformation as we see. If we still call transformation giving young amazing people cleaning jobs, promotions jobs, activation jobs, and catering jobs, whatever jobs, those are not strategic jobs, because we're still at this moment. So I'm now speaking business high level, right? But we're then still sitting in a space where JSE companies are doing business amongst themselves. So if they do business amongst themselves, where does it leave space for these guys to then be able to infiltrate and come in?
That makes a lot of sense. Geez, like he's got so much to share for us that we could like put him on a Financial Thursday and have him talking entrepreneurship, right?
Maybe we'll discuss that later.
Right. Someone put him on the spot. But then what happens when business fails?
You sit there, I guess, you cry, you dust yourself up, and you just keep on going. So I think for me, I do one simple thing, right? I've had a lot of things fail. I mean, so this is my childhood friend. I mean, we've been friends for years. I mean, we started something in 2007 called Crown Fest that failed. There's a lot of things. I mean, I've transported school kids that failed. I've sold stationery packs that started and failed. I sold food packs like Poloni's enterprise products that failed. I used to do paving and cleaning jobs that failed. I used to do toilet refurbishing, which I was so terrible at it. I don't even know how they signed off that job. But anyway, I used to do that. So it was a series of things. And what I always tell people is that sometimes you become so hell-bent on trying to get this one thing right. But sometimes life requires you to try and touch on a couple of things. I always say to people, if you are in the broadcasting space, for instance, right? Try and find a mentor who's in the financial space. And find a mentor who's in, I don't know, corporate affairs. Because there are certain things that you will learn, fundamentals. So there are certain fundamental principles, right, about success that are not limited to an industry. But when I sit with an industry expert, some of the key things I will pick up is how to do it better, which is essential. I'm not saying don't get an industry expert, right? But also get a variety of people that know nothing about the industry. They will also poke different questions about it, but what's the whole purpose of it? And those questions also are meant to always keep you reminded about why you're in there and why you need to stay in there, but also how to be creative in that space. Because, I mean, isn't it that innovation is when two different industries collide, right? It's like when we had the phone colliding with the camera, and we had different things coming together, and you had a car colliding with Bluetooth, and you had this colliding with that, and then innovation then came into being. So I think that as a result as well, it's when you disrupt the space that innovation comes into play.
All right, so what can students expect from your plugged session today?
Everything I just spoke about.
All right.
No, man, I'm hoping to bring in some energy. I'm hoping to share a lot about my entrepreneurial journey as a means to show them that they can do it. And I think if ever anything, they should be doing it way more and way better, right? And because our stories are just there just to spark with the greatness that is lying within them. And I think they must look forward to having fun and join us in.
Yes, that's right.
Slow.
Immediately after this, he is going to be here at UJAPB at the Student Center. If you want to catch his plugged session come through, he's got a whole lot of knowledge to share. If you are a person in business or looking to get into business, come through. Bulelani, thank you so much for coming through.
Bulela,
we've thoroughly been informed, and I think a lot of people are like running out of class now thinking, yay, I need to be there.
Bulela, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bulelani. So on the Urban Brunch, we usually have the last sip, which is just like a quote or words of wisdom to leave the listener with. And we'd like for you to give us the last sip.
No, man, it's simply this: get things done, right? No one was born to stand on the sidelines and watch other people walk up and down the red carpets of life, but everyone was born to participate in the game of life. No one is going to change the channel of your life into a channel of success, into a channel of wealth and greatness, but you got to actively get out there and participate in the game of life and change your own channel into whatever you want it to be. But know one thing: at the end of the day, it boils down to one simple thing: get things done.
Sure. And just like that, we wrap up the Urban Brunch. It's been an awesome